We are back. Welcome in Under the Lights podcast. Ben Spicer, Drew Johnson, and Marc Henry. We're talking high school football around the country, specifically in Florida, Georgia, and Texas. We had some fun games this week. I think all three of our games actually came down to the wire. It might be a first that we've had, games going into the fourth quarter. I know a couple of us have had some blowouts throughout the year, but it seems like this year every game we covered was good. Marc, we'll start with you to kick things off here on the show because you had a nice comeback. I think your game was 29-7, and the team that only had 7 ended up coming all the way back. They looked like Miami with a big comeback. So tell us a little bit about Aledo and Denton Ryan.
Well, it was a battle of number 1 and number 2 in the 5A D1 ranks in the state of Texas. The premise here is also that it's a district matchup as well, with Ryan having coming in undefeated, and the only loss for Aledo was against Denton Guy. It's a tale of two halves, honestly. Denton Ryan came out, punched him in the mouth early. Uzziah Warmate, 6', 250, had a big carry on 4th and 1 from the 50, and he went yard. That brought Ryan up 6-0. Braden Mussett had a touchdown also, and Hill had a touchdown. And they were up 27-14. Aledo just kind of looked a little bit, slow out of the gate. But in the second half, the defense came awake. They came alive. And Caden Finley and Racing Guillory Jr. came alive in that offensive line. Aledo said, listen, let's get back to our identity. We're going to run the football. We're going to be physical, and we're going to get the ball into Caden Finley, who faced double teams most of the night. I could tell that he was really trying to find his way to get open, and when he found his spots, they hit him. He had a touchdown. Racing Guillory had 4 touchdowns. One was called back, but the one at the end showed everything in Racing Guillory Jr.'s game. His quickness, his elusiveness, his ability to change directions quickly, and he took it to the house. Beard flipped it to him, the quarterback, flipped it to him kind of Patrick Mahomes-esque, and then he went to the house with it. And I happened to be standing there witnessing it. It's kind of, fun, one of those things that you can see the momentum just changing. When they came out the second half, they got the football, they established it. It was also a 100-yard kick return as well. And Aledo is Aledo. This is what you expect from those guys. They've only lost at home in the last probably 10 years 4 times. They've won 123 straight district games. So this is one of those teams that you have to really choke them out and not give them any breath or any life in order to beat them. They just do not lose at home. And it's one of those things where you see the difference in levels, when it comes to state contenders and teams that are really, really good. And it's no knock on Denton Ryan. They're a really, really good football team. I expect them to, be a deep playoff team. And listen, there's a possibility coming in the semifinals or quarterfinals that this could be the matchup again, which, a lot of us think that's going to happen. But, Racing Guillory Jr. is special. There's a reason he's got, close to 40 offers when it comes to college recruiting. And, Caden Finley, both of these guys in the 2026 class, 2 of the highly recruited guys in Texas. But I was really impressed with Guillory in the second half. His ability to change directions, his patience in the hold. If you watch Ray run, he may take a couple of steps here and there. When he hits the hole, he's small, but when he gets into the open field, it's lights out. And shout out to the receivers that did some great blocking on that last run. He was able to squirt into the end zone, toe tap Tony his way in there. And I was really impressed with the resolve of they call Aledo Title Town for a reason. They've got 12 state titles, working on number 13. They'll be a favorite. They should probably move up to number 1 after this victory over Denton Ryan. But there's also Richland in that particular district that's left as well for both of those guys to play, which I think those will be, 2 pretty good games between those 2 teams. I think Ryan gets a shot at Richland first, and then Aledo towards the latter part of the year. But when you have stars you can lean on, with starting with that offensive line, and then letting Ray Guillory and Caden Finley do their things. That's a recipe for success, and that's kind of what happened. Now the Aledo defense made some subtle adjustments. In the second half, they only allowed 3 first downs and no points. So, they scored 34 and answered to come out in halftime and just really, in dominant fashion. at home in a big game that everybody in the state had their eyes on. So, I really thought this was, a win, a signature win for those guys because, us guys in the media, in the scouting industry, recruiting, whatever, we see these games and we mark them on our calendar. And, this was a big game that everybody been pointing to, kind of, waiting to see, if Aledo's really still that champion, or is Ryan ready to take it over. So they haven't lost a district game in I don't know how long. So, it's probably people that haven't been living as long as they've had a district win streak.
Before we go to Florida, real quick, I want to talk about East Texas, a kid who stood out. Me and Mark were texting about this performance, an amazing performance. You talk about Aledo. Longview is one of those teams that year in and year out, they've got that championship pedigree. Kelvin Washington, man, he went absolutely nuts in their game against Rockwall. Listen to this stat line, guys. 532 total yards, 381 of those were rushing yards. This is the second most in school history for a single game with the rushing yards. He had 8 total touchdowns, 6 of those rushing, 110 receiving yards, a 97-year record broken. And you think about all the great players who have come through Longview. Impressive. Kelvin Washington, Mark, that's an amazing performance.
Well, listen, his nickname's Boosie. When you grow up with that kind of nickname, that means you can get down. You know what I mean? And
you can set it off.
Yeah, absolutely. You can set it off. And he's that guy, man. He's a spark plug for those guys this year. The last 4 years you've heard Taylor Tatum's name, who's a national recruit, now he's at OU. Great player in his right. But like you said, Ben, think of the lineage of running backs and playmakers that have come through the Longview pedigree and tree of top-notch athletes. Coach King's been there for I don't know how many years. And for him to come there and set that record, that says a lot. He was that guy that was coming in, in the past few years behind Tatum. Now he's the featured guy. 5'9", 180 pounds. We're talking about a guy that can get north and south really quick. But when he cuts on a dime, he's a guy that can make people miss in the open field. And he was just fabulous this weekend. Shout out to him for doing his thing. I think that's going to be a springboard for those guys to get ready for the playoffs. I happened to see the game against South Oak Cliff, and he was fabulous then, had a kick return as well. So he's a guy that sets the tone for those guys. But I think this is a springboard, a big win, a big showcase for him. And college coaches should really be taking notice of this guy. I know he's got some colleges looking at him, but that's going to be a springboard type of thing. Just think about the year of these guys that coming out of the unknown or that they didn't get seen nationally. Well, now he's putting himself on the map. College coaches are going to be swarming. They're already. Anytime you come to Texas and you come in that way, you're going to make a stop in East Texas. Definitely, shout out to Kelvin Boosie Washington for that monumental performance that he had over the weekend.
Had to give him a shout out for sure. Let's go to the Sunshine State now. Drew, you had Bartow and Lake Gibson, I believe, right? Tell us a little bit of how that went.
First of all, it's been some crazy stat lines across the country these past few weeks. We got to tighten up on the defensive end. I don't know what's going on around the country, but these defenses need to wake up a little bit. Texas, man, y'all had a few good games that came out to the wire as well. Nick was at one as well, so Texas had some good football. My game, it was not so much firepower. But it was a local game. If you was in Polk County, you had to catch it. Yeah, Bartow took down Lake Gibson 24-14. Just to start off, it didn't start off really good in the first half, but the second half picked up. There's another kid that we shouted out a couple of weeks ago on the show, 2025 quarterback out of Bartow High School, Blake Johnson. Had another good game at the quarterback position, showed off his legs, showed off his arm too, had a couple touchdown passes, but his legs, man, he's a mobile kid that can get it done at the next level. I'm telling you, college coaches got to get eyes on his film. But I got to give it a shout out to the player of the game. He was one half of the player of the game, but Bartow doesn't go without this kid. This kid's the engine of the Yellow Jackets. It's Tavares Murray, man. Central Michigan commit, kind of does it all. Has to be special teams player of the year, right? Or if we're doing the special teams player of the year award, this kid has to be up for it. Guys, he's had 7 punt returns called back. I think he's had like 3 or 4 already that counted, but he's had 7 called back. I don't know if I've ever seen something like that. That's crazy, man. But he's an X-Factor type kid. I'm not sure why teams keep kicking it to him, right? But this Friday, he had around 20 tackles with 2. They got a couple sacks, and he even recovered a kick return. Later in the game, Bartow kicked the ball down. Lake Gibson start falling asleep a little bit like they're doing out here in Polk. I don't know what's going on. We got to get on Polk teams, man. We got to tighten up. Polk's is a little down right now. We're a little top heavy with Lakeland, Lake Wells, Lakeland Christian. Couple other teams, but it's looking bad, bro. And this game was one of those. Lake Gibson's a younger team. Shout out to Rich, my dog Pringle. Well, they got to tighten up, man. We got to do something with development out here in the Polk area. I know we love to talk about how it's really a hotbed, but the offenses are starting to let me down. But Lake Gibson's a young team. They gave all the effort they could. But Bartow has seniors. They got a good coaching staff, and they got T-Murray. When you got a guy like T-Murray, he's going to score on the special teams. He's going to cause a fumble. He's going to have an interception. He's an effort guy. So shouts out to T-Murray and Blake Johnson. Those were my two players of the game. I was going to keep my eyes on the shorter end because it wasn't a barn burner. It was a slower type game, but it's picked up in the second half. But a couple other games I got my eyes on real quick, man. IMG took down Venice 21-16. Venice put up a good fight, man. They kind of blew out Cocoa a couple weeks ago, but Venice showed they got grit, bro. That defense is suspect. I think they're giving up around 40 to 50 points a game, but they scored around 50, 60 points a game. So they're decent. They put up a good fight against IMG, but couldn't pull it off. And down goes IMG again, guys. My guy Coco Hart Coco. Down goes Coco again. My guy Brady Hart and Coco Tigers fall to 3-3 after a 33-14 loss to Miami, New Orleans. They're going to have to find a way to stop teams from scoring, and they're going to have to limit turnovers, man. We talked about the top 2026 quarterbacks, my 1A and my 1B, being Brady Hart and Noah Grubbs. Brady Hart slipping a little bit, dog. You know what I mean? It happens at a quarterback position. You got to be able to be next game mentality. But their defense is letting them down a little bit. He's going to have to tighten up. Lake Mary's looking good. Noah Grubbs pulled off another win. But that was a game I caught this week. Lake Gibson versus Bartow. Bartow took them down behind players of the game, 2025 quarterback Blake Johnson and 2025 athlete Central Michigan commit Tavares Murray.
All right, let's keep it in Florida. I was in Florida. I've been spending a lot of time in South Georgia, but I stayed close to home. Went over to Gene Cox Stadium because we had a good one in town. We had Gadsden County and Lincoln. Now, Lincoln was 5-0. They played a pretty tough schedule. They played one of the top teams in Pennsylvania earlier in the season. I think they had won all their games by at least 10 points coming into this game. And then Gadsden County as well. They came in at 5-1. Their only loss was to Coffee in Georgia, a team I'm going to see next week, actually, as they travel to Lee County. Coffee and Lee County battle of unbeatens. But this was a fun one. This was a big matchup of North Florida and Tallahassee area. So Gadsden County, like we said, they played a really tough schedule. And I think I'm going to go ahead and proclaim it. I think they're the best two running backs in the area in North Florida. I don't know if it's the whole state, but it's tough. It's up there for sure. Kamari and Battles and Tristan Davis, the Gadsden County running backs. So Battles came in from Rickards at the start of the season. I think he's from Gadsden County originally, but it's a crazy 1-2 punch. Those two guys. Battles got most of the carries, and he's been the leading rusher throughout the year. And he's just impressive, man. You know, he finds a way to make things happen. The game kind of comes to him, and you know he's someone who's not afraid to stick his helmet down. You know, get those tough yards. Tristan Davis, he was impressive not only carrying the football but also in special teams. You know, Gadsden had a swing. They were actually down 14-9. Lincoln came out in the second half and scored, and Gadsden had a swing. You know, where in about a 2 or 3 minute span, they score a touchdown, and then they get a punt return touchdown from Tristan Davis after they forced Lincoln to go 3 and out. But he was impressive, and I really liked Gadsden County's quarterback, Landon Doherty. He's a 2027. He's about 6'5", 6'6". You know, sometimes teams put those numbers in there, and you're like, he's not really that tall. He's really that tall, and he's already got some Power 4 offers, Duke being one of them, several other offers as well. His dad played at FAMU, so he's also got an offer from the Rattlers. But I think as he continues to grow and get comfortable with himself and his game, and you kind of saw that a little bit in this matchup. You know, he made some throws early on. Lincoln was going to sell out to stop the run because that's what Gadsden County does, right? So Doherty had to make some throws early on to kind of loosen up the defense, and he was able to do that. And I think as he continues to grow confidence-wise, he's definitely going to be a problem moving forward in that 2027 class. Also want to give a shout-out to Gadsden County linebacker Antonio Vasquez. I think he's kind of came into his own this year. I don't know that he was putting up the numbers that he is this year last year, but he's averaging double-digit tackles for Gadsden County. Seems to just always be around the ball, knows where the football's at, has a nose for it. So I think as he continues to grow this season, he might be someone to watch in terms of picking up some recruiting momentum. I think he definitely deserves it. He was impressive to me. Like I said, he was all around the ball, especially in that second half. You know, it seemed like he got better as the game continued to go on. So was impressed with him. Numerous other Gadsden County players that stood out for sure. They're an impressive team. They're very senior laden. I think they kind of went all in on this season in terms of trying to come out on top. They had a tough loss in the playoffs last year to Wakulla. Coach talked about that. Coach Ellington talked about that after the game. I guess he's been putting on the film of that game over the summer and even through the season. So sometimes the kids show up for practice or whatever, and they've got that tough loss on the screen there just to kind of remind them, don't get complacent. We're not where we want to be just yet, although they're having a great season at 6-1 now. Looking at Lincoln, we actually got the chance to see this quarterback on the DR7 circuit. That's Christian Sims. He was playing with Two Trill, the runner-up in our February Davenport tournament. And it was nice to see him in pads. When you're looking at 7-on-7 quarterbacks, you don't get to see that mobile ability. But this is a guy who can extend plays. He made a lot of things happen. The matchup in the trenches was so fun, man, because Lincoln has an incredible offensive line. Gadsden County solid on the O-line too. But both of these teams have an absolute menacing defensive line. And we'll talk about one of Lincoln's defensive linemen here coming up. But Sims, I think he was pressured a lot, and he was able to extend and make plays on the ground. He had several plays, where he throws it up and receivers aren't able to come down with it. He had one early on in the game. It was Patrick Mahomes-esque, man. Like he's rolling out to his right, throws a no-look pass across the middle for a first down, and receiver drops it. So it was good to see him in person. Like I said, I think he's a guy who deserves some more praise for sure. If he was a couple inches taller, I think a lot of schools would be really high on him. I don't really think it matters, though, for his game. I think he could definitely play at the next level. If not quarterback, he could definitely, play maybe running back or receiver because he's just got that elusiveness to him. Very fast. I think he ran a 4.5 40, so definitely someone who I think can lead Lincoln to a solid playoff run and a solid season. They're 5-1 overall, came in undefeated against Gadsden County. But those two teams, I think, will make some noise come playoff time. And then, like we said, the defensive line, Chancey Jordan, man, he was split out at linebacker some on the outside and also played defensive end. But he was a force, had a moment, had a stretch in the second half where he had back-to-back sacks. Really put a lot of pressure on Doherty. As we said, he's kind of trying to come into his own. So Lincoln was sending the house, rushing him, and, he stepped up and made some plays. But I was really impressed with Jordan. I thought he was impressive. He's a Charleston Southern commit. And he kind of anchored the defensive line. But I think the most impressive part, and I'll put the clip up, you guys won't be able to hear it, but I have the shotgun mic. I'm able to pick up some things here and there. And it was early on in the game. Gadsden County's down in the red zone, and Lincoln player makes a tackle for loss. He gets up. He's celebrating a little too much, at least in the eyes of Jordan. So Jordan says, "Hey, come here. And he's like, "No, don't do that. Don't do that until the series is over. Don't do that." I think Gadsden ended up kicking a field goal that series, but I thought the leadership was impressive, right, from Jordan. Like, you don't really see a lot of guys doing that, but in the moment, he was able to kind of settle his guys down. So I think that really impressed me. That really spoke a lot to me. So I think Charleston Southern, man, they're getting a good one. Speaking of good ones, I'm excited next week. I think they're going to move the Gadsden County Florida High game up to Thursday. So if they do that, I'll be able to check them out. Saw Florida High earlier in the year. They've had a really tough schedule like Gadsden County. So that should be a really fun, really good matchup. One of the best coaches in Florida and Coach Hickman there at Florida High. Excited to see that. And then Friday, I've been trying to go to Lee County for several weeks now. So I was going to go to Thomas County Central and Lee County. Ended up evacuating for the hurricane. So this past week, Coffee County was scheduled to go to Lee County. Coffee County got hit really hard by the hurricane. So they're out of school actually until the 18th, I believe. So that matchup got pushed back to this Friday. So hopefully everyone in Coffee County is good. Hopefully they're able to play that game because that's going to be fun. Like I said, both of those teams are undefeated. Lee County running back Usman Chroma, he just committed to Georgia yesterday. So excited to see him, excited to see Weston Bryan, and excited to see Coffee County for the first time, man. I think they're a team who could make a lot of noise deep into the playoffs too. So looking forward to that. Mark, I know you've got probably the most highly anticipated game in the nation next week on your schedule. Tell us a little bit about Duncanville and DeSoto.
Well, it's it's the creme de la creme. October 11th is going down. DeSoto, Duncanville, bragging rights, whatever you want to call it. Number 1 versus number 4. Duncanville's coming in number 1 in the state right now. DeSoto's only blemish was against North Crowley. This is a big game. I expect this to be a packed house. I expect it to be a really, really good game, physical. It's going to be whatever you want to see when it comes to high school football in the state of Texas. It's going to be on that field. I think that these two teams know each other. These coaching staffs know each other. The kids know each other. So
Yeah.
it's going to be even more exciting. We live for games like this. In what we do. I think that starting with the players on the field. Keaton Russell is that guy. I think he's the best quarterback in the country, in my opinion. I take him and put him against anybody in the country. He's elite for a reason. And then you have the number one wide receiver in the country, and DeCorian Moore as well. But I think this game is going to be about the supporting cast as well. Of course, you got Tiger riding for DeSoto. You know about Byron Washington on the offensive line for DeSoto. You know about Kiki Abrams. Sal Reyes on the back end, SMU commit. David Singleton, SMU commit. Of course, 2027 top-notch wide receiver, Booby Feaster. But that's a guy that I think that we need to talk about that people may have found out about or are about to start talking about here. Myson Johnson Cook. We're talking about a guy that's about 6'1", about 220 pounds, that's running 10'6", 10'7". He's starting to heat up. He's that guy that's been coming in. When you see Tiger go out, he's wearing number 0, big, physical, and fast. I'm talking about a guy that can get it done. I think he's going to be an X factor when it comes to DeSoto being able to churn out those yards, because we know Tiger Ryan's going to give you everything. But Myson Johnson Cook's been coming in and he's been wreaking havoc. Also, Keldon Ryan is an X factor as well for DeSoto at the quarterback position, a guy that can really get it done. Virginia Tech commit. He's kind of settled in. DJ Bailey cast a wide shadow. We all know DJ Bailey was an awesome quarterback for DeSoto these last 3 years. Ryan's come in and kind of set the tone, and I think it's his team now, and you can see them going forward as he's gotten more comfortable in that offense. But this is a game that's going to come down to who has, the least penalties, the least mistakes, who has 0 turnovers, because it's going to be high stakes, drama on both sides. When I say drama, I mean the atmosphere is going to be out of this world. The stakes are going to be high emotionally, because these guys have been looking forward to this game, and people like us have been at a fever pitch to see this game right now. So it's here. It's going down October 11th at DeSoto and Duncanville. Of course, you got legendary coaches as well as Coach Reginald Samples and Coach Mathis, some of the best coaching staffs in the country. Everything's going to be right there for you to see. I can't wait. I've talked about this on the rundown. Shout out to the rundown as well. This is a big game, and I expect it to be very, very highly contested as well.
Drew, where are you at this week? Tell us a little bit about your game.
Yeah, huge game, Mark. Guys, if you're in Texas area, you got to get eyes on that.
Yeah,
you got to get eyes on that.
We got to get Mump to fly us out there, Drew.
If that would be huge, right? Hope you watch it, Mump. But no, I don't think my game is as big as on a national aspect as that game. But when it comes to Florida, this game is going to be huge. The Lake Wells Highlanders are traveling back up to Central Florida. They had their 28 game win streak snapped. They had a regular season game win streak snapped. A couple weeks ago, they traveled up to Orlando and played Sanford Seminole, lost by 3 points. But this week, they're traveling up to Jones High School to play against Darion Coleman and the Tigers, man. Of course, I'm going to watch 2026 quarterback, one of the best in the country right now, Darion Coleman. He just committed to Miami. Has over 1,000 passing yards. I think he has like 15 touchdown passes. He's doing his job, right? You see Ben throwing to you down there. They had a crazy comeback win last night.
I went to bed.
If you were in Florida, man, that West Coast game, it was a little late, right?
Man, I was sleepy as hell.
ACC after dark might be something new. I don't know. This might be something we got to pay attention to. But man, Jones has just they got so much firepower on the offensive side with 4 or 5-star, I think 5-star wide receiver Vernell Brown. And Larry Miles, 2026 wide receiver. This kid has potential to be a 5-star as well. He's coming into his part. So I don't know, man. Jones is looking good right now. They've been beating up on everybody. They haven't been giving up many points as well. But Lake Wells has the 2027 kid. I think he's one of the best 2027 athletes in the country, and Cornelius Purdy. He can play all over the field. He's a defensive guy, but he's a special teams kid. Plays wide receiver as well. If you go look at his highlights, he's a creative player. If he played NFL streets back then, this would be a type of kid you'd want to have on the team. But That's going to be a big game, man. Mark is getting blessed, right? He's getting blessed this week. He has the biggest game in the country. But Jones versus Lake Wells is going to be a huge game in Florida this week. If we don't get beat up by another hurricane, guys. Shouts out people on the West Coast, man, Tampa area. They got hit bad by Helen, but we're supposed to be getting hit again by something else. So hopefully we get a game this week.
I'll take a little moment before we sign off here to promote what we have coming up. First, on the YouTube channel, if you're watching this as it's released later on tonight, Sunday, October 6th, we will have our DR7 2025 schedule release show. We'll be doing that live. Me, Marc Henry, Jonathan Mumphrey will be telling you where we'll be going in the 2025 DR7 season. A couple new stops. You don't want to miss it. Definitely tune in. We're releasing our final rankings today, too, so stay tuned to that on social media as well. Mark, what do you have coming on the On Your Mark show, and where can people find that at?
You can find it, you can go to onthemarksports.com. Every show's there as well.